All right. Greetings, everybody. Hakia Me here, the Success Gala. It's a beautiful day. Hope you all a wonderful day before the alleged New Year's. But I wanted to come. I've been wanting to do this since the uh, beginning of the Kwanzaa season. Um, but I wanted to take a little bit of time to dissect some things that that are going on that I feel that I'm uniquely qualified to intellectually address and just paint a picture, for instance, of for those that are curious about the world and curious about, for instance, Black people's in the diaspora role within it. So, for those that may not know, Success Scholar Haki Ami out of Baltimore, Tubman City, but organizing on many different levels for the past few years, been doing some work in different parts of Africa and experiencing a tremendous, but not just Africa, of course, here. Uh, just organizing on the ground up and down the East Coast, and I've been doing that for quite some time. But operating in the Baltimore area, but certainly in the state of Maryland. So I felt the need to do this because just as you see in the topic, Dr. Umar Johnson misses the U.S. Africa Summit, but he sent to the Breakfast Club interview. So I'm just, having a little, uh, intellectual discussion in my mind. Sometimes I don't have anyone to talk to about these, types of thoughts, these global thoughts that I may have about organizing and how individuals in leadership should or could be moving, right? So that being said, it popped in my mind. I was just like, so just let me backtrack. So for those who may not know, and I'll just share, like my screen, there was a recent uh, conference. I mean, not recent, but maybe 2 weeks ago, a week and a half, where the U.S. This is an NPR article. I'm trying to play it. Let's see. Uh, okay, I'll try to play it. And let me.
Streaming is made possible by Johns Hopkins Diabetes Self-Management Training Service, an evidence-based standard of care for Marylanders living with diabetes. It's shown to significantly improve blood sugar control, enhance self-efficacy, decrease healthcare costs, and more. Ask your provider about DSMT. Visit hopkinsmedicine.org/DSMT.
That we think could bring joy to other people. Do you ever, I don't know, you're really successful and obviously this is what you're doing to making a living, but does it, I sound like such a Gen X.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the right one. Let me stop that. I stopped my screen.
In my mind,
Let me
when I
stop
look
the
back,
volume.
there are
Sorry, y'all.
my
Hold
career
up.
kind of jumped.
I was
into
trying to
space that was
play.
unknown. I fully kind of relate to the.
Okay, forget it. I'll tell you what. I'll just read it. Let me go back to share screen. I apologize. I don't do many of these, but and I'll just read it. That's simple, easier way. The title is U.S. wants to improve. U.S. wants to improve. Okay, this is NPR, but it says nearly 50. I thought it was 49. Oh, let me make sure I'm unmuted. Yeah, I'm unmuted. Nearly 50. I thought it was 49 African leaders and delegates have arrived in Washington this week for a key summit hosted by President. It is centerpiece of a major effort to reset and improve U.S. ties uh, with African countries whose relations with China and Russia, increasingly Russia, have drawn scrutiny. So let me get down here. Well, China, Russia, and the European Union, Japan, and Turkey have held many similar gatherings with African diplomats, business people, groups. This is the only only second of such summit the U.S. is hosting in the last 8 years. The meeting was inaugurated in 2014 under President Obama. It is also not clear when the next meeting is taking place. Okay, let me stop sharing. Oh, let me stop sharing. Okay. So, with that being said, you see 49 delegates, and the last time it was 2014 when this happened before. So, with that, I happen to, I'm speculating, but it was not, for instance, understood. Um, and it's not just him, but I feel that some people who have positioned themselves for whatever reason in front of a large percentage of black people that are sincerely looking leadership. They're not looking to develop themselves. They're just uh, following and believing and listening and having faith and confidence in individuals' uh, judgment, their abilities, their reasoning, their rationale to organize on a massive level to uh, exact, some sort of change, transformation, and liberation. So, with that being said, as I read this article, as you can see, for instance, there were many countries that were in the U.S., right? And I'm just curious. I mean, for those of us that are in the DMV area, and it may be a little bit, my conscious and awareness here because, we in the DMV area, we get a little international media, perhaps a little bit more. So this, was a big deal, on many levels. Now, let me just share, for instance, what real organizers, real individuals who have a global Pan Africanist worldview or orientation, what they should have been doing, especially, for instance, if they live, in a 1 or 2 hour radius, like Dr. Umar is in the Philadelphia area or Delaware. So, it would be nothing for him to have, come on down, come up, down to the DC area. But around the same time, he can make it to the Breakfast Club. So I'm just thinking, like, to myself, I'm like, so you have all of these African countries and their top brass, their top officials, the first ladies, and not just, for instance, the African summit, for instance, where the presidents actually meet with their individuals, but their ministers of finance, ministers of tourism, ministers of agriculture. They are here for 1 week. Like everything should have stopped. Like for conscious individuals that understand what's going on in the world and strive not to remain irrelevant in the 21st century. Black people in America not maintaining a subservient class or subservient status in this society should have had a hand, in uh, operations. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to be in President Biden's cabinet or one of his functionaries or some other, congressional black caucus or some other congressional leaders, uh, uh, pocket or pocketbook or for whatever. But there are people and there were enough events going on of which, I happen to, be present for, a couple. I didn't, go overboard. I was there like every day, but, it would have been, for serious individuals that have a level of consciousness uh, should have, attempted to, kind of integrate themselves and to network, if you will, to find out what is going on. And many people feel like they know what's going on, in these countries already because they read different media or they talk to people on WhatsApp or something. But not like getting some feedbacks from some of the top officials in these particular countries that you can possibly interact with and have conversations with. But the challenging thing that I'm curious about is who, for instance, Dr. Umar listens to or does not listen to. I'm curious and troubled that no one in his space, like would feel the confidence enough to say to him, brother, you need to be present here. You need to humble yourself, for instance. Yes, you may have to be to come and meet with people that you're not like the keynote speaker. These people are presidents of, countries. They have, Kenya has 55 million, Tanzania has about 60 million, 58 million, I'm sorry. So, the presidents, for instance, are, that they are, pretty established as successful people, and they may have their own egos or a sense of confidence and sense of success. So, it's that delicate balance of, our level of humility, humbleness, as well as our abilities to reach out to other individuals, for instance, other nations, other nationalities, other city states, if you will, and those that are attempting to organize, like on a grassroots level, that may also find reason, for instance, to connect to the diaspora. There were African delegates or people that were not necessarily a part of the official delegations that came from Africa, but they just recognized like, okay, I can get into different spaces, and they may have made a trip to the U.S. to connect to Black people here in America, right? And as I have gone to Africa a few times now, many are attempting to connect Black people here for whatever reason, even if it's just for us to give them a sense of consciousness, a sense of hope, uh, and to do business, right? So that was one of the things that I wanted to make across. Like, okay, like in here, for instance, uh, like nobody in your circle suggested to you, well, go to a side event. There were a long list of the side events, for instance, in uh, that were listed on a State Department website that other people had, and you could come and meet the many different, uh, as I said, the ministers, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm also curious about the connections, for instance, to Africa, and like because I'm in touch with some different embassies, and not that it negates organizing on a grassroots level, but when, for instance, are you going to make some connections to some Africans on the continent that would suggest, or say, look, Dr. Umar, or whoever, but you should come and meet some of the ambassadors that may be in DC during this time. So I'm just curious, for instance, like where are the connections to some of the countries in Africa, right? Now let's back up. Let's back up. Let's back up. So what? He didn't come to the U.S. Africa Summit or none of the events in D.C. Although hours, it's 2 hours away. Uh, he doing the school, or et cetera, et cetera. But you will go to a Breakfast Club, and none of them. I don't think that they even did one show on the U.S. Africa Summit. they didn't have like a single individual, to discuss Pan-African relationships. Like, you on there talking about Deion Sanders, and you have a whole nations of 1 billion people, coming to. That should have been the time to galvanize your resources all over DC to do like something big, like do like throw your own event. If you the papa and you want people to come and listen to you, who knows? Who knows who would have come if you would get a hotel or something, or and advertise it at the embassies, or have a ground team organize it at the embassies or some of the African restaurants. Get some of the cultural radio African uh, radio programs, or some of the others down here. Give them a couple dollars or something. Some of go pass out flyers and word will spread. Even if you don't do it like online or on a radio. But the challenge thing is, so you only want to show up to the Breakfast Club, right? Where you talking to people that interview, what's that little rainbow little kid, um, the rapper 6ix9ine, like people who they actually interview people like 6ix9ine. So they attract the most ignorant, the most degenerate network. Now I know they branched off and have done, they interview different people. So I'm not, like saying that all the interviews are the hip hop crews, if you will. But I'm just simply saying, if you can make it to New York, sit in the studio to I guess boost your ego, boost your American ego, for instance, talking to the 85ers of the world. For those that may not know, the 85ers are those that are dumb, deaf, and blind. They're not, unrefined. They refuse to learn, right? So I'm simply saying that there's a time to show up. And I'm just, not encouraged that, you didn't come when President Obama did it, and now this time. But to go back on that, I'm just also curious, for instance, like over the years, me living close in the DC area, uh, there have been many congressional Black caucus types of events. Now, I've seen people from the diaspora come to, for instance, the CBC events, the Congressional Black Caucus. They have a week of different types of events. Not all of them are parties and boozing, and they are, and not everything is about voting processes. There are generally some educational programming is done during the weeks, and then of course they have the nighttime events. But I'm curious, if you were talking, for instance, about issues such as reparations, like have you even supported like any of the congressional candidates, had a conversation with any of the Black congressional candidates or officials, or gone to the CBC events and organized some of the grassroots actors that may be curious or coming to do that, to show up there from the diaspora. Because some people, the only representation of Black people is, for instance, the Congressional Black Caucus. So just from an organizing perspective, even if you are organizing with grassroots and you don't want to taint your brand, or stand around, or Negroes, if you want to call them, or integrationists, or whatever you feel that you need to call individuals. The question becomes, where is the growth? Where is the power, the organizing for real power that should be taking place? So I'm just kind of curious, when does that happen? And I'll close with this. I'll begin to wrap up. I said it's not going to take me but 20 minutes, but okay. Some people, I know that there are some groups that for instance, have the little saying that can't do anything on a presidential level or a congressional level. I don't even know, for instance, if there's any even local organizations that not organizations but officials that are running for office. And this is the backdrop of this is that he has a political science degree. You have a political science degree, but somehow you don't even like show up like to organize, but you want to just talk. So I'm just like, is this like some intellectual masturbation, or are you being like an armchair revolutionary? A sense that you only want to talk when somebody invites you to talk to dozens of people. You're not going to show up anywhere else, for instance, uh, that you're not the keynote speaker, right? And this is why, for instance, and I'll be in the close, why Garvey perhaps was more effective. I just did a post on that because let's think about it. Garvey didn't have YouTube, right? He didn't have, radio where all you can do is criticize everybody else and nobody hold you accountable, right? He had to interact with people, right? And people felt his passion and they saw him take action because you had to take action then. You couldn't just be on a sideline or you just can't yell from a stage and that's all the work you needed to do, right? And we need speakers, but we also need people that take action, right? We need people that's gonna do something for the people strategically and tactfully, and that's what I'm saying. That's missing the tact and strategy. You omitted a whole conference that may not happen for the next, who knows, 5 or 10 years. Didn't even speak on it, man. Like you had blinders. I mean, maybe he did. I don't know. Maybe he did do a live on it, but I'm just like, that's not enough, bro. That's not enough. Like you need to show up, right? You need to show up, and it's a sad thing that you don't have any elders, and you don't have no elders that you respect, or no peers that you respect that can talk to you, right? You disrespect everyone, even individuals who have equal or a level of confidence or experience where they have some achievements of their own, like myself. I mean, I don't can't take anything away from myself. Like you feel like you think it's the baddest, but you're not. They're African presidents, right? And other people that are doing big things, right? But you gotta know how that you have to show up, right? So I just wanted to offer that my critique, and that's all I have for y'all for the day. Hope you all have a beautiful, happy, healthy Kwanzaa. I'll be back. My next critique, I'm discussing FBA follies. I have to do that one next, and just the hypocrisy of that. So that's coming up here. Let me take a break, and I will do that in a second. Peace and blessings.